The room fell silent the moment the old veteran stepped inside the military briefing tent. His boots were worn down, his jacket faded from years of sun and struggle, and his eyes carried a weight that no young soldier in that room could fully understand. The colonel turned from the board and stared at the stranger standing at the door. The younger recruits looked at each other, confused and unsure why someone who looked like he had come straight from the streets was being escorted into the most secure tent on the base. The old man shifted awkwardly, gripping the strap of a torn canvas bag, as if it was the only thing of value he had left. The colonel took a moment, studying him, noticing the scars on his hands and the slight limp in his step, the kind that comes from old injuries never treated properly. Finally, the colonel asked the question that had been on everyone's mind. "State your name and your purpose here." The old man swallowed, his voice gravelly as he answered, "Name's Marcus Halle. I was told someone here wanted to speak with me." The colonel raised an eyebrow. "Halle, you served before?" The old man nodded, slow and tired. "Long time ago." The colonel motioned for him to step forward, and Marcus walked deeper into the room, passing rows of fresh-faced soldiers who had never seen real battle. They stared at him, whispering among themselves as he kept his eyes down. The colonel noticed the discomfort in the room, but he also noticed something else. On Marcus's chest, barely visible, was a torn patch. A faded emblem. A unit insignia that hadn't been used in decades. The colonel stepped closer. "You wore that patch," he said quietly. Marcus nodded. "Used to." The colonel's tone changed. "What was your call sign?" The recruits leaned forward, sensing something serious. Marcus hesitated, as if saying the words might bring back memories he wasn't ready to face. But then he looked the colonel straight in the eyes and said, "They called me Hawk 8. The entire tent reacted. Some gasped. Others sat up straight. Even the colonel froze for a second before regaining his composure. Whispering spread like wildfire. Hawk 8 wasn't just a name. It was a legend. A call sign spoken only in old mission briefs and stories told around campfires by veterans who had seen impossible things. The colonel felt the weight of the moment. "Hawk 8? You're telling me you're the same man who—" Marcus lifted a hand to stop him. "I don't know what you've heard, Colonel. Most of it's probably exaggerated." The colonel shook his head. "No, if you are truly Hawk 8, then nothing about your story is exaggerated." The recruits watched in awe as Marcus lowered his bag to the floor. The colonel took a step closer. "What happened to you? Why do you look like you've been living on scraps?" Marcus shrugged. "World didn't have much use for old soldiers like me. After I left the service, things got complicated." The colonel felt a surge of frustration at the injustice. How could a decorated veteran, a man with one of the most respected call signs in military record, end up broke, wandering from town to town? "You should have been honored," the colonel said quietly. "You should have been taken care of." Marcus smirked bitterly. "That's not how life works, Colonel." The colonel motioned for him to sit at the front table. Marcus sat slowly, his joints cracking with the effort. The recruits leaned forward, trying to catch every word. "Tell me," the colonel said, "when was the last time someone asked you about Hawk 8? Marcus took a deep breath. "Many years. Most people forgot. Or never knew." The colonel rested his hands on the table. "Not here. These soldiers need to know what real bravery looks like. They need to know what you did." Marcus shook his head. "I didn't come to tell stories. You called me here, remember?" The colonel nodded. "Yes, because we found something. Something tied to your last mission." Marcus's eyes flickered, a spark of old alertness igniting. "My last mission?" The colonel looked around the room. "Everyone out," he ordered suddenly. The recruits groaned but obeyed. Within a minute, the tent emptied, leaving only Marcus and the colonel. The colonel sat down across from him, lowering his voice. "We found a black box." A flight recorder. It was discovered near the mountain range where your helicopter went down. Marcus froze. His breath caught in his throat. That bird was never supposed to be found, he whispered. We assumed everyone on board died, the colonel said. But the box survived. Marcus closed his eyes, memories he had buried for years beginning to rise. Why bring it to me? The colonel placed a small sealed container on the table. Marcus stared at it like it might explode. Because, the colonel said, you're the only survivor. Marcus leaned back, stunned. Why now? After all these years? The colonel took a deep breath. Because the recorder mentions your call sign. Hawk 8, and something you said during the mission. Something coded. Our analyst couldn't break it. Marcus looked down, rubbing his face. I didn't think that mission would ever come back to haunt me. The colonel leaned in closer. Tell me what happened, Marcus. Tell me what Hawk 8 really means. Marcus opened his eyes, and for the first time the colonel saw not a tired old man, but a soldier waking up from a long sleep. If you want to know what happened, he said quietly, then you'd better prepare yourself. It wasn't just a mission. It was a betrayal. And not everyone involved wanted it uncovered. The colonel sat back. Are you saying someone sabotaged your team? Marcus nodded slowly. We were sent into enemy territory without proper support. Our extraction was delayed intentionally. Someone wanted Hawk 8 erased. The colonel clenched his fists. But you survived. Marcus gave a faint, sad smile. Survival isn't always a blessing, Colonel. The colonel opened the container slightly, revealing a fragment of metal with engraved numbers. Marcus's eyes widened. You kept this? The colonel nodded. I kept it because I believe your story isn't finished. And I need your help to uncover the truth. Marcus stared at the fragment, memories swirling violently in his mind. He took a deep breath. If we're doing this, he said, you need to know everything. Even the parts that were never in the official reports. The colonel nodded. I'm ready. Marcus leaned forward. It began long before the helicopter went down. It started with a message I never should have received. And with that, the past he had tried to escape finally came rushing back. Marcus took a slow breath as the colonel waited, the tension thickening inside the quiet tent. He rubbed his hands together, feeling the tremor that came whenever old memories clawed their way up from the darkness. It started, Marcus said, 3 days before the mission even launched. I was off duty, getting ready to rotate back home. My tour was done. I'd packed my gear, said my goodbyes. Then a runner showed up at my barracks telling me command needed me immediately. The colonel listened closely, not interrupting. Marcus continued. When I arrived at the operations center, everything felt off. Too many unfamiliar faces, too many civilians in suits whispering to the officers. They handed me an encrypted note. No sender name, no signature. Just a single sentence. Hawk 8 is required for retrieval. He shook his head. I didn't even know what we were retrieving. No details, no mission brief, nothing. Just orders. The colonel frowned. That violates every protocol we have. Marcus nodded. Exactly. But back then, I didn't question orders. I was young, disciplined, and stupid enough to think every mission had noble intentions. He leaned back, staring at the tent ceiling as if watching the memories play above him. They assigned me to a 5-man team. Good men. Experienced, loyal, skilled. They trusted the system too much. The colonel picked up a pen but didn't write anything, just held it, frozen in the tension of Marcus's story. We were told the mission was to extract a target from deep enemy territory, Marcus said. A scientist, supposedly defecting with classified intelligence. High value, critical. Marcus paused. But I should have known something was wrong when we never got a name. They called him simply Asset 1, the colonel shifted. Anonymous targets are rare, usually only for top-level operations. Marcus nodded. It gets worse. We boarded the helicopter at 0200 hours. The pilot told me he had no flight path details until after takeoff. Even he was in the dark. The colonel's jaw tightened. That level of secrecy means someone up the chain didn't want anyone to know what you were really doing. Marcus continued. We flew for hours. When we reached the drop zone, everything seemed quiet. Too quiet. We fast roped down, and immediately, I felt it like eyes watching us from the darkness. He rubbed his temple. The scientist was exactly where they said he'd be. That was the first red flag. The colonel nodded slowly. Targets are never waiting neatly in the dark for rescue. Exactly, Marcus said. He approached us kindly. No fear, no panic. He just looked at me and said, "You're Hawk 8. That stopped me cold." I never told him my call sign. None of us did. The colonel leaned forward. How did he know? Marcus shook his head. Never found out. We secured him, signaled for extraction, and then everything went to hell. The colonel stayed silent as Marcus's face tightened with the weight of memory. The extraction chopper was late, Marcus said. Not by minutes, by nearly an hour. We were stranded in open terrain with no cover. Every soldier knows what that means. The colonel whispered, "You were being set up." Marcus nodded. The enemy surrounded us fast. They moved with precision, as if they knew our exact location, our route, our timing. We fought hard. I lost 2 men in the first 15 minutes. His voice cracked for the first time. They were good soldiers. They didn't deserve to die like that. The colonel lowered his head. Marcus continued. When the chopper finally arrived, the pilot yelled that we needed to load fast. We shoved the scientist inside, then climbed in under heavy fire. But the moment we lifted off, the scientist leaned toward me and said something I'll never forget. He whispered, "This wasn't meant for you." Marcus clenched his fists. Before I could ask anything, there was an explosion. The helicopter lurched. The tail section was hit. We spun out of control. The pilot tried to stabilize, screaming into the radio, but the comms were dead. The bird went down hard. The tent felt smaller as Marcus's voice grew heavy. When I came to, I was half buried in dirt and metal. My ears were ringing. My vision blurred. Everyone else. Gone. Except the scientist. He'd crawled out, barely alive. I dragged him to a clearing, but he was bleeding out fast. Marcus took a long breath. Before he died, he grabbed my arm and said, "The truth is in the black box. Don't let them bury Hawk 8. Then he passed. The colonel sat back slowly. So the scientist knew the mission was a setup. Marcus nodded. Yes, and the moment he died, I knew the only chance I had was to hide the black box. Because if the people who orchestrated this wanted me gone, they'd come for that evidence. But you didn't have the box when the rescue found you, the colonel said. Marcus shook his head. No. After the crash, I searched the wreckage. The recorder had been damaged, partially burned, but still intact. I buried it deep in the mountain soil under a pile of rocks. No one would find it unless they knew exactly where to look. The colonel frowned. Then how did my team find it? Marcus stared at him, eyes narrowing slightly. Good question. You said it was found after decades. Who found it? The colonel exhaled. A civilian hiker. At least that's what the official report said. But something about it feels wrong. The location was too precise, the coordinates too perfect. Marcus leaned forward. Colonel, black boxes don't magically appear after years of being hidden unless someone wanted them to be found. Which means either the people responsible are gone, or they want the truth exposed now. The colonel tapped the table nervously. There's something else. Inside the box, among the data fragments, the analyst found a short audio clip. Just 3 seconds. Your voice. Speaking a code. Marcus's expression darkened. What code? The colonel replied, you said, Hawk 8 protocol. Then the recording cuts off. Marcus froze. Every muscle in his body tensed. Colonel, I have never ever spoken something called Hawk 8 protocol. The colonel nodded. That's why we're worried. Marcus slowly stood up, pacing. Someone used my call sign for something. Something big. Something dangerous. The colonel asked cautiously, do you know what it could refer to? Marcus hesitated, then said quietly, the only time I ever heard anything close to that was from a general long before the mission. He mentioned something classified, something off the books. A contingency. A failsafe. The colonel asked, failsafe for what? Marcus stopped pacing and turned to him. A failsafe for rogue officials inside our own command. The colonel felt the air leave his lungs. You're saying your team was targeted by someone inside the military? Marcus nodded. Yes, and if the recording says Hawk 8 protocol, then it means something is happening again. Something big enough that the ghosts of that mission are coming back. The tent went silent as both men absorbed the weight of the revelation. Marcus sat slowly. Colonel, tell me everything your analysts found. The colonel nodded and reached into his folder. One more thing was recovered. A handwritten note. Old, damaged, but one line was still readable. Marcus leaned in. The colonel whispered, it says, if Hawk 8 lives, the truth survives. Marcus felt his heart drop. So they knew I survived. And they let me walk around thinking I was forgotten. Why? The colonel asked. Marcus closed his eyes. Because sometimes the most dangerous weapon is a man who thinks he's powerless. He opened his eyes, sharp and alert again. Colonel, whatever is coming, we have very little time. The colonel swallowed. What do you need? Marcus answered without hesitation. Everything. Every file, every scrap of data, every hidden report tied to my mission. The colonel nodded. You'll have it. Marcus took a deep breath. Good, because once we uncover who set us up, they'll come for us. The colonel felt a chill. Then we'll be ready. Marcus shook his head. No, Colonel. You're not ready. No one is. Not for what's coming. His voice dropped. This wasn't just a mission. It was the beginning of something much bigger. The colonel leaned forward. Then part 3 of your story. Better tell me what we're up against. Marcus nodded slowly. It will. And with that, the storm behind Hawk 8's eyes grew darker. Asterisk. Marcus exhaled slowly, gathering the strength to reveal the part of the story he had never spoken aloud, not to commanders, not to investigators, not even to the friends he once trusted. The colonel could see something shifting behind the old veteran's eyes, like a locked vault cracking open after decades. Marcus leaned forward. If we're doing this, Colonel, you need to understand the truth from the beginning. Not the version written in the reports. Not the version fed to the soldiers. I'm talking about the truth that cost my team their lives. The colonel nodded, bracing himself. Marcus continued. Back then, Hawk 8 wasn't just my call sign. It was a designation, a classification, a contingency for missions too dangerous, too unstable, too politically messy to be officially acknowledged. The colonel narrowed his eyes. A black-level designation? Marcus nodded. Worse, a ghost-level one. A group of only 8 operatives worldwide were ever assigned such a status. Each one chosen for missions that would never go on record. Missions that powerful people wanted done quietly. The colonel whispered, and you were the 8th. Marcus gave a cold smile. Yeah, the last one. The only one still breathing. The colonel felt a weight crush his chest. What happened to the others? Marcus replied simply, silenced. The tent grew cold. All 8 missions, Marcus said, including mine, had something in common. Each involved recovering or destroying classified intelligence that could expose internal corruption. The colonel frowned. Corruption? Inside our own command? Marcus looked him dead in the eye. Inside the highest levels. Generals, politicians, intelligence directors. People who built entire careers on lies. The colonel felt his pulse quicken. Marcus continued, "Before my mission, Hawk 1 uncovered evidence of weapons deals with hostile nations. He disappeared. Hawk 2 traced missing defense funds to a private firm. His helicopter accidentally crashed. Hawk 3 poisoned. 4 lost at sea. 5 ambushed. 6 shot by an unknown sniper during training. 7 vanished without a trace." The colonel's hands clenched into fists. This is treason. This, Marcus said, was a purge. The colonel swallowed hard. "So when they sent you on your mission, they weren't rescuing a scientist," Marcus said. "They were eliminating the last Hawk." The colonel stood in stunned silence. Marcus continued, "My team was just collateral damage. They didn't care about them. They only cared about erasing me and whatever the scientists knew." "But the scientists tried to save you," the colonel said. Marcus nodded. He realized the truth too late. He saw the orders being manipulated, saw the chain of command being bypassed, saw the intel being falsified. That's why he ran. He thought he could stop it by defecting. But once they realized he was talking to Hawk 8, they marked us both for death. Marcus paused, his eyes distant. "We should have never boarded that helicopter. But we had no idea the betrayal was coming." The colonel asked, the code recorded in the black box. "Hawk 8 protocol. What does it mean?" Marcus exhaled. "It wasn't a code," I said. "It was a trigger phrase." "Trigger phrase?" Marcus nodded. "Someone uploaded it into the system. Someone pretending to be me. They used my call sign to authorize something catastrophic." The colonel's throat tightened. "Authorize what?" Marcus's voice dropped. "A covert weapons transfer. One that armed a rogue militant faction. A transfer later blamed on enemy activity, which justified billions in new defense contracts. Someone got rich, Colonel. Very rich." The colonel paced back and forth in disbelief. "So your name, your call sign, was used to commit international crimes?" Marcus nodded. "And then they tried to kill me so I couldn't clear my name." The colonel felt the tent spinning. "And now that the black box has reappeared," Marcus finished his sentence, "the people behind this think the truth might leak. That scares them." "A lot," the colonel asked quietly. "Why did they leak the box now? Why didn't they destroy it?" Marcus shrugged. "Maybe someone in their ranks turned against them. Maybe someone wants revenge. Maybe someone wants to expose the truth but can't do it openly." The colonel stopped pacing. "So they're using you." Marcus chuckled bitterly. "Story of my life." The colonel finally sat down, rubbing his forehead. "Marcus, if what you're saying is true, then we're dealing with people who can erase entire soldiers from history. People who can bury missions, forge evidence, fabricate reports, and kill without hesitation," Marcus finished. "Yes, Colonel. That's exactly who we're dealing with." The colonel took a deep breath. "We can't fight them alone." Marcus shook his head. "We're not going to fight them head-on. That'd be suicide. We're going to expose them." He leaned forward. "But first, I need to know what the analysts decoded from the flight data." The colonel opened the folder and slowly slid a paper across the table. Marcus picked it up. On the paper was a set of coordinates. His eyes widened. "These coordinates?" The colonel nodded. "They match the route your helicopter took. But these," he pointed to a second set, "were hidden in the audio waveform, encoded." Marcus traced his finger along the numbers. "This isn't extraction coordinates. These are..." He froze. The colonel leaned closer. "Marcus, what are they?" Marcus whispered, "A storage bunker." The colonel blinked. "A bunker?" Marcus nodded. "Deep underground. Off the record. A bunker meant to store classified material too sensitive for any official base." "A black bunker?" the colonel asked. Marcus nodded. "Built for one purpose, safeguarding evidence." He lowered the paper and stared at the colonel. The scientist wasn't trying to escape. He was trying to lead me to the bunker. The colonel realized the truth. The truth. The evidence of corruption. "It's all in there." Marcus nodded. "And that's why they had to kill us." The colonel felt a chill run down his spine. "Then we need to get to that bunker before they do." Marcus stood slowly, an old fire reigniting in his gaze. "They'll expect that. They'll send people after us the moment we move." The colonel asked, "Do you still remember how to operate covert systems? Old codes, old overrides?" Marcus cracked a small smile. "Colonel, once you're Hawk 8, you never forget." The colonel grabbed his coat. "Then let's move. I'll arrange transport." Marcus held up a hand. No official vehicles. No military routes. No digital tracks. If we travel through official channels, they'll intercept us before we even clear the base." The colonel nodded. "Then how do we get there?" Marcus smirked. "The way Hawks always did, quietly." The colonel understood. "Old smuggler routes?" Marcus nodded. "Used them before. Still remember every inch of them." He picked up the black box fragment, sliding it into his bag. "This is our proof. And that bunker holds the rest." The colonel straightened his uniform. "Marcus, if we succeed, this could bring down some very powerful people." Marcus slung his bag over his shoulder. "Colonel, that's exactly why we need to succeed." But as they prepared to leave the tent, Marcus suddenly stopped. A shadow shifted outside the canvas wall. A faint crunch of gravel. Someone was listening. Marcus raised a finger to his lips. The colonel froze. Another step crunched outside. Marcus whispered, "They're here already." The colonel reached for his sidearm. Marcus quietly moved toward the back exit, motioning for the colonel to follow. The colonel whispered, "How did they find us so fast?" Marcus replied quietly, "Because the moment you opened that black box, someone somewhere got an alert." The colonel's eyes widened. "You're saying the box was being tracked?" Marcus nodded. "And now they know Hawk 8 is alive." The shadow outside grew larger. Marcus whispered, "Colonel, whatever happens next, stay close." The colonel took a breath. "You ready?" Marcus smirked. "I've been ready for decades." And as they slipped into the dark, the hunt that began years ago ignited once more. Only this time, Hawk 8 wasn't running. He was coming for the truth. Asterisk.